I'm currently on Labuan Island, which is part of Malaysia, and I'm with Peter Searle. And Peter Searle helps expats, or people set up companies in Labuan. And I'm looking at setting up an international company. I'm not in Australia. I'm not based in Australia anymore. I'm looking at setting up an online business where I'm getting money from various countries. And, in doing that, I want to try and do it as cheaply as I can. And Labuan Island, it's not so much a tax haven, Peter. How would you describe the setup here?
Well, the Labuan is an international business and financial centre which was set up by the Malaysian government. Malaysia is a common law country, so it's basically got British law, which is the same as most other Commonwealth countries, United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, Australia.
So for you it's very easy to practice, because you were originally a barrister, weren't you?
Yes, the law that I learned at university in the 1970s, basically it's the same as the law here. Contract law, trust law, tax law even, all of the fundamentals are the same. Malaysia's nearly just like another Australian state.
And what's unique about Labuan? Like you mentioned before, the tax rate's around 3% for a company. So how's it different from say the rest of Malaysia?
Well, Malaysian companies don't pay tax on income earned from sources outside Malaysia. Labuan companies do, to the extent of that 3% or $7,000 flat. But Labuan companies got exemption from foreign exchange control. So a Labuan company can open up any account in any currency whatsoever, and we're just opposite the HSBC here. So we open accounts in euro, US dollar, pound sterling, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, New Zealand, etc. And we open up all those accounts, and the Malaysian government allows trading through Labuan companies.
All right, so very handy for an international company that's dealing in different currencies.
Very much so, very much.
Now, you mentioned before also there's a thing called a double tax agreement, which you said Labuan Malaysia's got a really great setup with that, which basically just means that you're only taxed in one country. So if I set up a company here, I only get taxed in Malaysia and not in Australia.
Yes, the one thing you look for in international trade is broad double tax agreement networks, and Malaysia's got one of the broadest in the world. It's got more than 70 double tax agreements with 70 different countries.
See, that surprises me, because you hear of other, I suppose you'd call them tax havens. You hear of Hong Kong, Liechtenstein, Cayman, Isle of Man and whatever, but you're actually saying that Labuan is probably one of the best, places to set up an international company.
Yes, the other countries that you named don't have any double tax treaty network to speak of, or none at all. Whereas for me, as an international tax lawyer and accountant, one of the most important benefits that you can get is an international double tax treaty network. Malaysia has got one of the widest in the world with more than 70 countries. So Malaysia is not only a Commonwealth country like Australia is, which has got about 40 double tax treaties, but it's also a Muslim country, so it's got double tax treaty networks with the Middle Eastern countries, oil producing countries. It's also an ASEAN country, so it's got double tax treaty agreements with all its ASEAN partners. It's Asian, so it's got an excellent double tax agreement with China.
All right, well, let's compare it to Hong Kong. Say if someone was going to set up an international company, why Labuan and why not Hong Kong, given that the growth of China?
Okay, well, we've got a lot of our Labuan companies do massive business with China and have got huge operations in China. The main benefit of Malaysia compared to Hong Kong is cost. You can rent an apartment or an office in Hong Kong or Singapore for the same price you can buy one in Malaysia. And the labour costs here would be maybe 30% of what they are in Hong Kong or Singapore. So all of the cost structures are there, the benefits are there. Then on the tax side, in Hong Kong or Singapore, you'll pay 17% tax on nearly anything, even if you just write an invoice.
So there's no real saving there, is there, really?
Well, 17% is perhaps a lot better than 30% that you'll pay in the high tax jurisdictions, but it's a lot less than you can pay in
3%.
3% or maximum $7,000.
Wow, well that's really interesting. So, so if I'm to do this, you know, I've got an idea. It's an online business. Currency's coming from all around the world. If I'm to do this, what do I need to do?
Well, what you do, it's the same as what you do in any other country in the world. You incorporate a company, which is just an application form. And for us, the costs of incorporating a company and keeping it going for the first year is $2,800 US, or 2,700 Australian. And then there are costs involved. The tax return would cost $300 to lodge here. The accounting to do profit and loss and balance sheet would cost $500 here.
Those prices are comparative to what an individual taxpayer would pay in Australia. That's pretty phenomenal.
Well, they're very low because the Malaysian wage structure is relatively low, yet the skill level is high. So you can employ a Malaysian honours degree holder in law or accounting for a cost which will be cheaper than the tea lady will be paid in Australia or Europe or the US.
Right. So Peter, we've looked at setting up a company in Labuan, and it sounds fantastic. 3% tax. I mean, I'm loving that. But if I wanted to live here, is that possible?
Oh yes, living here is fantastic. We have a lot of expat British pensioners and the like. They live in Malaysia, they get their British pension, they live like a king and queen with maids and whatever, very cheap seafood. You get Malaysian tax residence very, very easily. And as an individual, you don't pay tax either. You can earn as much as you want as a director's fee or a dividend from a Labuan company, and there's zero tax on that in Malaysia because you're a non-citizen of Malaysia. The Malaysians are happy that you employ their maids and their gardeners.
It's just sounding too good, Peter. Is there anywhere else in the world that has? I mean, because I've sort of been looking at this. I've been looking at places to set up an international company, and this just sounds too good to be true.
Well, a lot of people are finding Malaysia is nearly too good to be true, but it is true. And a lot of people come and they live in Malaysia for the lifestyle, terrific lifestyle. The fact that they don't pay tax is a bit of a fringe benefit.
Should we be putting this out there? Should we be keeping this secret to ourselves?
Well, up till now, I'd say Labuan's the best kept secret in the world. And I don't mind if it stays that way.
All right. Well, look, thanks for your time, Peter. I think I will follow this up. It's, as I said, part of this lifestyle experiment of travelling the world is making money on the road and setting up an international company. And Labuan sounds like it's an ideal place to do that. So thank you, Peter.
Pleasure.